Hello, I'm Rachel Jones for the Finance News Network. Joining me today from clinical drug development company Kazia Therapeutics is Executive Director and CEO Dr. James Garner. James, welcome back to FNN.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
First up, could you start by giving us an introduction to your company?
Rachel, Kazia is an oncology company. We're focused on the development of new cancer therapies, but we come at it from a slightly different angle from most of the biotech companies in Australia. Developing a drug right through from the laboratory all the way through to a marketed product is a really, really long journey for a company. It takes many years, it costs a great deal of resources and financial commitment, and unfortunately it has only perhaps about a 5% success rate. So we've tried to position our business around finding really great drugs where some of that work has already been done, typically in a big pharma company. And we can then bring it into Kazia, do some of the real value-adding work around clinical trials and other development, and then look to partner it out to a big pharma company for commercialization. That means that it's a much, much shorter cycle for investors, perhaps 3 to 5 years typically, and really takes out a lot of the risk and the investment that's required.
Now, before we talk about your trial program, could you talk about the instance of brain and ovarian cancer and their current therapies?
Well, the form of brain cancer we're targeting is a disease called glioblastoma. It's the most common and the most aggressive form of brain cancer, and it affects somewhere around 130,000 patients a year worldwide. Sadly, it was the disease that Senator John McCain in the US passed away from just recently. So it's not as common as breast or lung cancer, but it's still quite a common disease. Ovarian cancer affects perhaps twice as many patients a year worldwide. We have treatments for both of these diseases, but there are some real challenges in the use of these treatments. For brain cancer, the main drug that's used is unfortunately only effective for about 1 out of every 3 patients. So for the remaining 2/3 of patients, there's a huge need for new therapies, and that's really where our company is trying to come in.
And now to your portfolio, could you start by giving us an update on the drug candidate for brain cancer?
Our brain cancer drug, GDC84, is in a phase 2 clinical study. So we're currently treating patients. The study's running at the moment wholly in the United States. And we're expecting to see some data from that probably early next year, some initial preliminary data. We also announced a collaboration very recently with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. This is one of the top children's hospitals in the world. And they're looking at GDC84 in a form of childhood brain cancer as well. So we actually have 2 clinical trials ongoing now.
And could you provide an update on the drug candidate for ovarian cancer?
Cantrixil, our ovarian cancer drug, is in a phase 1 clinical trial at the moment. That's taking place in the United States and Australia. That study's been underway for about 18 months, and we're actually starting to see some data readouts now. It looks like the drug has a very acceptable safety profile, and we've now just moved into a period where we're looking to get a more definitive efficacy readout on the drug.
And James, now let's turn to your finances and share price. What is your cash position and where will that take you?
As of 30th of June 2018, we had $9.3 million in current assets. Now that includes about $6 million in cash and about $3.3 million in receivables, prepayments, that sort of thing. On top of that, we have about $3.5 to $4 million worth of securities in another ASX listed biotech company called Noxapharm, which is an asset that we can monetize at our discretion. So putting it all together, we have a war chest, if you like, of about $13 million upwards. That gives us the resources to take our programs through well into 2019.
And can you provide a comment on your share price?
I think it's probably fair to say that our share price reflects the fact that ours has been a business that's gone through an enormous transition over the last 18 months. Kazia was born out of a previous ASX-listed biotech company, Novogen, and has really had a fundamental transformation to the business. And meanwhile, our 2 programs have made the transition into very substantial clinical trials. And this is always a long journey for investors to come along with. But I think we're now right where we want to be in the business, and I think that's something that hopefully in the coming months will be reflected in the valuation of the company.
And last question, James, what can investors expect in terms of news flow over the next year?
Rachel, it's a great year ahead for Kazia. We have now 2 clinical programs ongoing, so we'll be seeing data readouts from both the GDC84 brain cancer program and the Cantrixil ovarian cancer program. For GDC84, that begins early next year with primarily some safety data and perhaps some early efficacy data. Later next year, a really meaningful efficacy readout for that drug. For Cantrixil, we'll also be seeing efficacy data somewhere in the middle part of next year. So really exciting year ahead for investors. We're fantastically excited as well in the company because this is the point where we start to see a return on all the work we've put in. So a great year ahead, we hope.
Dr. James Garner, thanks for the update.
Thanks, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here.